samo, co mówię. Good afternoon. I have the pleasure to welcome everyone here at AGN and also in front of your screens, wherever you are. We are very pleased to welcome you at the Medical University of Gdańsk during another university debate, a discussion meeting within the second stage of Culture of Respect campaign, which is entitled Diverse and Equal. And our debate today is equality and diversity. We would like to bring diversity and equality to focus and light and inspire positive thoughts about both, and hopefully also positive, meaningful actions within our academic community, and maybe also a little bit further. The Culture of Respect campaign is implemented in alliance and with support from the Marshal's Office of the Pomeranian Voivodeship and also the City of Gdańsk. And our partners in the campaign are also the University of Gdańsk and Fahrenheit University's Union of Universities in Gdańsk. Our speakers today will be students and alumni of our university, and also a very special guest from outside our medical bubble. And in alphabetical order, I would like to welcome Princess Ijeoma Anike, first-year student of English Division Nursing Program from Nigeria. Faisal Al-Maglot, MD, our graduate from 2022 from English Division Medical Program from Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. Shraddha Singh, fifth-year ED medical student from India. Marlon Ross Souza Luis, MD, English Division graduate of 2021, born in United Arab Emirates and Native American by ethnicity, Canadian by nationality. Fanny Sunesson, sixth-year ED medical student from Landskrona, Sweden. Alejandra Vivas, third-year ED medical student from Cali, Colombia, and New Jersey, USA. And our guest, Mr. Andrzej Ziółkowski, explorer, photographer, humanist, and advocate of equality and diversity, focusing the most on human spirituality. I will take the seat now, and we will go directly to round one of our debate. So let's start with round one, diversity of the panelists. I would like to ask you to present yourselves briefly in the beginning. We will first go to Alejandra. Video recording from Alejandra, who could not attend the debate live.
I was actually born in Colombia, in Cali, Colombia. And I would move with my family to the US, to New Jersey, when I was a kid. So I grew up in a very multicultural city, let's just say like a big melting pot.
Yes.
Okay. And I'm a first-year nursing student. I'm from Nigeria, Imamo Iwolo, Eziago, Enugu State, to be precise. I've been born in a family which is multicultural, from a family of Sir Ambassador Obin Anyeke and Lolo Anyeke, and I'm also the first child. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go now to Faisal, our graduate in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. Thank you very much, Faisal. Let's go now to Fanny.
Hello everyone, my name is Fanny Sunesson. I'm from a small town called Landskrona in Sweden. Now I realize that not many of you know the city of Landskrona, so let me help you out by telling you that it's a city located near Malmö in southern parts of Sweden, which is only a short distance from here by flight. So I was born and raised there. I lived in the same town and the same house for my entire life before coming here, so it was kind of a leap. But Landskrona is a multicultural city with many ethnicities and religions, so I feel like I have experienced many cultures even before coming here.
Thank you. Let's now go to Marlon Souza Luis. Marlon, the mic is yours.
So yes, I'm currently working at the medical, in the UK currently, but I was actually born in Dubai. So my parents are actually from India, but specifically from Goa, which used to be a Portuguese colony, so have that kind of like that whole heritage going on. When I was quite young, we ended up moving to Canada, and I lived in Canada most of my life. I did my undergraduate over there, so I did study at the medical university, no, not medical university, at the University of Toronto, and I did mathematics and human biology over there. Then moved to Poland, where I did medical studies at the University of Gdańsk, and still doing my PhD currently, and now I'm currently living in the UK, in Nottingham, so I've kind of been to a couple of countries.
Thank you very much, Marlon. It really shows that your family traces are wrapping the half of the world. Thank you. So let's go now to Shraddha.
Hello, everyone. My name is Shraddha Singh, and I'm a fifth-year medicine student, born and raised in India, but within India, because of my dad's work, we used to travel around in different parts of India. And then at one point, we also had the opportunity to live in Japan for a few years and in Belgium. So yes, I have had a little bit of an exposure to diversity and different cultures and religion before coming to GUMED.
Wonderful. Thank you, Shraddha. Let's go now to Mr. Andrzej Żukowski.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for the invitation to this debate. Because of my age, my CV is a bit longer than yours. So I was born 20 kilometers away from here in Gdynia and spent my 30 years on the coast of the Baltic Sea. Those were pretty grim times when Poland was still under the political and economical occupation of the Soviet Union. And we were completely cut off of the West, so I had no real experience with other cultures. And just to put this a little bit in context, in America were the hippies and rock and roll, and in the UK, the Beatles just went to India to learn transcendental meditation. So at the end of the 70s, I graduated from the Gdańsk Technical University. It's here around the corner. Married, got my first job, and two children were born. Again, it was a very troubling time because we had a martial law imposed by the communist government. And it was a very difficult and hard time to plan for future, so we decided to leave Poland. We fled Poland in 1986 and went to Germany, where I learned German, joined the French multinational company, and stayed for 6 years in Germany. In 1991, the company assigned me for a job in Singapore, and that was a job with a joint venture with a Japanese company, Toshiba, and that was my first real culture shock when I landed with my family in Singapore. So my professional career accelerated, and I was climbing the ladder of the corporate world. But some tragic events in my life made me rethink completely what do I live for, and what do I want to do with my life. So in 2008, I left the company, and like the Beatles 40 years before me, I embarked on a journey, a spiritual journey that brought me here.
Thank you very much. It's a story that has just started to develop. It seems we could go much further, but we have to go on with the plan. And the second round is early experience of diversity. I would like you to summarize the most important elements of your early exposure to diversity, as you remember that from pre-university period. So can we have Alejandra speak first?
Like I said, I grew up in the U.S., which is was very diverse. My school was full of students from different countries, from different backgrounds, and so I was always exposed to learning about different traditions, languages, traditional foods from different countries, which was always the best part. Also, before medical school, I had the opportunity to go on a around the world trip, and this was I covered about 35 countries, so this was very enriching experience where I was able to learn from different cultures and meet so many people from different countries, and also it really opened my eyes to see the beauty of different perspectives and different traditions. I learned, and this was my biggest take, was that people around the world, or people on the other side of the globe, they're also looking for the same things we do, which is to be happy and to be, for their well-being. I learned that kids play the same way here than they do on the other side of the world, and that also teenagers are teenagers, right? So this humanity part of us, it's what unifies all around the world.
Thank you, Alejandra. Now let's move to Princess Annika.
Yeah, I would say diversity has always been an inherent part of me. Coming from Nigeria, which is a heterogeneous country, I've had the experience, the exposure to meeting different people from different countries also. Also in Nigeria, there are lots of religious people from different religions. There are more than 300 ethnic groups, more than 500 languages spoken, although the lingua franca is English due to the colonial period. From my earlier years, I don't have a lot of experience, obviously, but I would say in high school, meeting classmates, you'll find classmates whose family had an ethnic background, which are different, but the same religion or something like that. But they're all living and coexisting peacefully. I feel like, although there are lots of challenges which comes with a multicultural environment, it has actually helped me develop an inclusive mindset. So diversity is actually a source of pride for us, and it shows our rich cultural heritage.
Thank you very much. Let's move on now to Faisal. Hello, Faisal.
As I said before, I am from Jeddah City, and it's the second biggest city in Saudi Arabia, and it's the main city where everyone who wants to come to Saudi Arabia for a pilgrim or for work they have to come there. So from an early age, we saw different nationalities, different people, but also my family used to travel a lot. And we traveled all around the Arab world, in Asia. We've seen multiple countries, multiple ethnicities, religion, food. So I think we got a good part of that. So,
Thank you very much, Faisal. Thank you. Let's go on now to Fanny.
So my experience with diversity, it started quite early on. Despite living in this small town for my entire life before coming to Poland, I think that I experienced the cultures from all over the world. In my small city, a lot of immigrants settled when Sweden took in all of these refugees. So already in primary school, I think there were more than 6 different languages spoken within the class that I attended. And each time you made a new friend and you went home with them, you could taste the food from their culture, and you could also learn something new about what they did, about their clothing. So something that was different was in the community where I'm from, something that was considered normal. There wasn't really a norm, but the diversity was everywhere. And I think that that made me more open-minded and also made me want to go out to explore different countries and to take the opportunities, not only to live in my own home country, but to take the step, for example, to come to Poland.
And this definitely prepared you well to be the year representative for 5 years, with so many different colleagues coming from many different countries. Thank you very much. Let's go to Marlon now.
So for myself, first thing being born in Dubai, we lived there for till I was 8. So since we were Roman Catholic, I went to I guess a school that was focused on, well, it was a Catholic school, and it was one of the largest Catholic schools. So as a result, there were a lot of different cultures that ended up, or children from different cultures that ended up at that location. But it wasn't until we actually moved to Canada that I actually got like a good taste of like diversity. In elementary school, or grades 4 to 8, or even high school as well, there's a large populations of different cultures, but the actual like proper experience of diversity was when I went to undergraduate studies, so at the University of Toronto. I believe University of Toronto is one of the most diverse universities in the world. I think it's about like 160 or 180 different countries are represented in the university. So most of my like close friends that I made at that time were from different countries, from South America, from Europe, from Asia, and from Africa, and I guess and North America, I guess as well. So I kind of got a good flush experience of different diversity or different cultures, just by, when you hang out at a friend's house, you end up having their food that their mom makes. So, first generation food always tastes a little bit better once you have a little experience of proper culture that way.
So cultural awareness in practice was a part of your daily life. Okay, thank you, Marlon. And let's go now to Shraddha.
Okay. Well, like I said earlier, initially growing up, for the first 8 years of my life, I was in India. I mean, I'm sure all of you know that India in itself is pretty diverse. We have a different language in every state, and there are around more than 150, even more than 200 languages which are spoken even today. Registered would be 30 languages, but experiencing diversity in my country, that we all look the same, but then, we speak different, we eat different, we wear different. So it's a pretty exciting and a very inspirational thing for me, at least when we were traveling around or moving around as a kid within India itself in different parts. So I stayed in Mumbai for a few years. I stayed in Kolkata for a few years. And I was born in Lucknow. So these three cities, they're completely different when you talk in terms of language or the food or how the people are or the norms of the society. But I think the biggest cultural shock for me would be when we all shifted to Japan. And I had the opportunity to study in a school with the international students. So it was the Tokyo International School. And I was in class with students from the US, from Sweden, from Korea, from Japan itself. So, but at such a young age, we were just so oblivious to the whole stereotypes, right? We were just students in a classroom, having fun, studying the same thing. And I think what our school did best was every month we used to have these diversity days. So each student would present something, like maybe some festival or clothing or like a food thing. And that was back in 2008. So that was my most cultural shock, and I am still grateful for that experience, even today, because for me, I would say it was like an early sensitization to culture. Like, okay, you know, there are so many different types of people from all around the world, and at the end, we're all communicating in the same language, and we can share this different ideas and different cultures and diversity when we are given a platform. So I think that was one of the most beautiful things. And I still remember my time in Japan. We stayed there for like only 3.5 years, but it's on my bucket list to go back there. And hopefully one day I'm gonna be revisiting Japan. But after that, I think when in 2021, I think my family shifted to Belgium, and there I think it's more culturally diverse because of the whole immigration rules, and even then I think it wasn't much of a shock for me, but at least for my brother probably it was. But we were all very grateful to have these such experiences when it comes to all diversity and culture.
Thank you, Shraddha. I'm absolutely sure that every one of our international students is a living, open book with many chapters of diversity and exposure to different cultural environments. And bringing this to our university, I think we should more frequently think about it, that this is a great value and it changes our university, that we have students with such different experiences and so much sensitivity that has been actually created in live diversity conditions elsewhere. Now, please, Mr. Żukowski, the mic is yours.
To answer this question, I need to back to my teen years. As I said, I grew up in this city port city. We used to call it a window to the world. My friends' fathers were sailors, so I came to listen to many stories from all over the world, from the long sea journeys. And frankly speaking, I envied very much my friends for the colorful toys they used to get from those journeys back home. So this, together with the open sea and horizon, which I looked at of the Baltic Sea, made me long for more in my life than just live in one place. So, and I decided, when I was 15 years old, I decided to learn English, which is not such an obvious choice to make as it is today. And English became my great passion, my biggest hobby, and I pursued it with very, very strongly. And as time proved, it was the best decision I could make. And knowing English became the passport to the world for me. So during my studies at the Technical University in Gdańsk, I was I became a guide for a student travel agency, Almatur, and guided 2 cycling tours in England. And that was the first time I really came to contact with the West, its economical abundance, and also multicultural London made a real big impact on me. But the second, even bigger impact came when in 1984 I was asked to guide as interpreter an expedition to India and Nepal. So that was the first time I visited your beautiful country. We started in Delhi, went east and crossed over to Nepal, trekked to Annapurna base camp, came back to Kolkata, spent 2 days and 3 nights on the train to Mumbai. And frankly speaking, when I saw those 8 weeks of travel in a world of completely different cultures, languages, religions which I had no notion of or had a very vague idea that they even existed, was a game changer in my life. When I came back, Poland was too small for me. And the virus of travel was firmly planted in my heart. So
I guess we all could agree that experience of diversity is an eye-opening and mind-opening experience,
definitely,
which I think is one of the things that will come back in the next rounds several times. Okay, thank you very much then. And let's move on to round 4. Diversity, well, it's kind of obvious. In the medical or biological world, we know that diversity makes or keeps us healthy, that constant recombination of the genetic material is what makes organisms able to survive. Whereas where we go to the cultural level, at least for some, diversity is not obviously a good thing. Some people approach diversity as a source of risks or challenges. They tend to close, they tend to withdraw, or even worse, get hostile to others, show disrespect. How would you comment on such attitude? And do you think there are any real challenges associated with diversity? First, let's go to Alejandra.
My experience in Poland has been very positive. I have met so many wonderful Polish people, and I find them to be very welcoming, very helpful. One of my best friends that I've met in Poland, and her family is like my adopted family. I love spending time with them and learning from their the family traditions, their language, their food. So I definitely had a very positive experience in Poland. Also, in the university, I've had the opportunity to meet people from other parts of the world, from other countries, and learned about their cultures as well, but also learned a bit more about how it is the healthcare system works in their countries, or the university systems, right, and work in their university in their country. So that has also been very positive for me to learn more from their countries.
We had this recording from Alejandra because, you know, we all know that rare humanum est. I have just made an error. I skipped round 3, and Alejandra has just answered the question about personal impact of diversity at GUMED. So the question is not yet about challenges. It's about how the experience of diversity at our university affected you, how it changed you. And after Alejandra's reply, we would now go to Princess.
Prior to my studies at GUMED, I would say my experience on diversity was at a national level, mostly Nigerians, even though there were little foreigners, that I met, but I didn't really have a close one-to-one interaction with any of them. So here at GUMED, it's actually really nice because you meet people that maybe you've just watched movies or you've seen in the social media about them, and you're like actually meeting them. You're listening to their stories, hearing their perspective on things, different people. And I've actually met really good friends, I would say, that I've made since I came here. I've been here for not up to a year, but it's been a really nice experience. In my class, although it's not as diverse as the medical division here, I would say when we have interactions, when we discuss about things, the perspective they bring, the opinions they actually share, it's really mind-blowing sometimes. At first you're like, what's going on? And you're like, wow, this actually makes sense. Like, this is really nice. So it has really been a nice experience to me.
Thank you very much, Princess. Let's now move on to Faisal. Hello, Faisal. Hello. So the question is, personal impact of diversity at GUMED. How did that change you? How did that affect you?
Well, it made me who I am today as a person, as a doctor, as an adult. It changed everything because there's a difference between traveling to another country, seeing what they do, and living in that country and actually understanding their values, their principles, their culture, their language. All those things can open your mind and, okay, I know what is this, or I've heard of it. It's not the same. So it makes you understand how other people think somehow, how they live, and then you feel closer to them. We're all humans.
Thank you very much, Faisal. This was very deep, and I think we could subscribe to that. Oh, definitely. From Faisal, let's go to Fanny.
Okay, so I will just start by saying that I agree with Faisal that coming to GUMED and experience the diversity here definitely shaped, I think, not only Faisal, but every one of us and who we are today. But I must say that my experience with diversity at GUMED has been mixed, because coming here, it was something new, it was something scary. You didn't only have the studies, you were maybe living alone or abroad for the first time in your life. So in the beginning, I felt that I wanted something safe. So to be honest, I must say that I tried to find the other people from Sweden or from Norway, like the Scandinavian people, what I knew, what I felt was safe. But as I felt that, you know, the studies were getting along, I was feeling more confident and comfortable, I started to look outside of that. And that opened up a whole new world to me. It opened up the Polish society to me when I actually had the courage to start exploring it. And it opened up a world of I don't know how many cultures and new experiences and stories that I got to hear from my colleagues once I had the courage to engage with them and ask them about their family situation, their home countries, and all of this. And I wish that for everyone, that they should try to go outside of the comfort zone, outside of this little bubble that we tend to create for ourselves, and, you know, take this step. It's really important.
Thank you very much, Fanny. I think it's a major thing we have to note and remember about, both for the summary of our debate and for the days to come. Let's now move on to Marlon.
You know, whenever you move to a new country, you always tend to go join groups that are kind of like safe. So you go join a friends group that tends to be from the same country that you're from, or share similar beliefs from where you are. But one of the biggest experiences for me was when I joined Scientific Circle. So for me, when I joined the English Division Pediatric Oncology Scientific Circle, I eventually became the leader for that group. And one of the biggest things or focuses in that scientific circle was that we wanted to integrate both the Polish division and English division. So part of that was to try to encourage both divisions basically to participate in activities for the children, and as well as take part in fundraisers for the children. So, you know, encouraging that kind of like diversity or integration was really something that was kind of important to me. We're also able to hold like events that for the children in pediatric oncology that we every month tried to hold an event that was focused on one culture. So, for example, from India or from what was it, Nigeria or US, Canada, Sweden, Norway. So we tried to integrate kind of like our own knowledge from our countries and try to show that to the children as well. So, you know, for me, this was also a great value. And also ended up meeting my wife. So my wife is Polish. So, you know, I got integrated into Polish society that way too. So that was a lovely experience too.
Yeah, that's a very special and very deep experience of diversity and integration with Polish society. Thank you, Marlon. Let's now move to Shraddha.
Well, for me personally, like diversity wasn't a very foreign concept. But then initially because as an 18-year-old, I started my medical school here in 2018. So traveling all the 7 seas across all by yourself, figuring out in a completely foreign land where language is a barrier. So that was a little bit of a trouble. But then I think the 2 most important things in GUMED that I'm really, really grateful for is that that basically helped me explore the whole diverse aspect of the university would be first the IRO and the events that they do, like especially like last year. This year also the whole cultural and integrating events. We have these diversity days that have been happening every month, and these are my favorite thing personally. And they were actually started last year, but they're more popular this year. And you get to know, because it's like, it's not an obligatory thing. You can always go there, be yourself, and get to explore the different cultures that the university has to provide among the students. And the second thing that I had the possibility to explore diversity was through science, because through GUMED, I got into the whole concept of scientific research and everything. And through that, when you go for conferences, you see not only students who are Polish or from a specific background, but you have participants from all over the world. So this is also one of my, I think, that I'm really glad that I am a part of this. And this was one of the 2 most important things that I was able to explore diversity through in GUMED personally. So thank you so much for that, definitely.
Thank you very much, Shraddha. Mr. Ziłkowski.
Well, I wish I had studied at your university. Hearing to this debate, it is really a great experience that you have and that you can build your life upon. So, but I can only refer to my first years when I started in Singapore and landing on this little in this little place, an island at the tip of the Malay Peninsula, 10,000 kilometers away from Europe. And with this, that created a challenge in many dimensions. Climate, food, the traffic on the opposite side, so you have to learn how to cross the street, and cultures, and a multitude of languages and faces of people. There were Chinese, Malay, Indian, Filipino, Japanese people. And that required to learn skills that went before, the communication required to learn skills that went before or beyond language skills. Of course, there was English, but it had so many colorings. Let's take a Singlish, which is Singapore English, which is a language that uses English vocabulary with Chinese grammar and Singapore accent, which makes it a completely different language. Yes, it is English, but well, I have to tell you that my engineers that came from America and joined my team were not able to understand them, the locals. So anyway, but there's something more important than just language. You have to know that East thinks differently than the West. In the West, we tend to use more nouns, so we are more specific. they use more verbs. So we differentiate, we split the head, they integrate. We value debate and arguing and individualism. In the East, people tend to withdraw, prefer silence and meditation. They look at the issue from the collective point of view. They never make decisions during the meeting. They need to withdraw and come back with a decision that kind of reconciles all different things. So this is something that I didn't know about, and that forced me, although I was a boss or a group leader, that forced me to withdraw from my knowing better position and to learn the skill of listening and being more of a student, an observer, than as the one who dictates and tells how the things should be done. Because the way I started, the things were not often done the way I wanted. Only after I understood how they should be done from their perspective, I was able to advance on the job. So, well, I was making mistakes, but trying to do better next time. But this skill of stepping back and shutting up and more opening my ears than mouth became a valuable asset when I embarked on the journey of into the world of the religions, when being a student was very important.
Thank you very much. When you mentioned stepping back from the position of knowing better, I had a thought about the meeting, confrontation, contact between majority of the hosts and minority of those who come to study, of those who come to work in a different place. And if the majority has no intention to step back from the position of knowing better, it can quickly transform into a position or attitude of lack of respect, being rude, non-receptive, and neglecting the needs or points of view of those who come.
Exactly.
So thank you very much for this. And now we really go to round 4, which is challenges of diversity. Things are not so sweet. Diversity is everywhere, starting from our genes. And of course, it makes societies colorful. It makes societies creative because everyone has different cultural backgrounds. So the same problem or the same idea is viewed differently by different people. But some actually decide or tend to focus on the negative potential aspects of diversity, and they see them before they appear, and they adopt some hostile attitude to anyone who is different or coming from elsewhere. And of course, this is something we would never want to see in our community or anywhere. But what would be your approach? What would be your suggestion? What are your thoughts about real challenges of diversity? Are there any? Let's go to Alejandra will speak now about that. Alejandra?
And deny that there are some challenges when it comes to diversity. I definitely think one of the tricky ones could be communication, as we have different languages. For example, being here in Poland, I don't know, going to a hospital, going to the grocery store, right, as we start to learn the language. But there also could be some challenges that are more of a cultural code and things that are more important to some people than not so much to others, right? So this could lead to some misunderstandings or just differences in how we approach things. For example, just for some of us, it's okay to be a little late to a family or friends gathering, and for some others, it's not. Right? So this could be and lead to some small challenges, but I think with patience and with understanding and being open-minded, we could overcome those challenges.
Thanks to Alejandra, and now let's move on to Princess.
Okay. Personally, I feel like the first challenge would be resisting change. I think as a 19-year-old who just left home, I've been with my family all my life. So coming here, everything is so foreign, it's different. So as humans, we tend to go to our place of comfort. And right now, I think my place of comfort will be people from the same country with me, like fellow Nigerians, associating with them. But so it's kind of hard to open up to people you don't really know about, because you might think the first thought will come, it will be a negative thought. Oh, they wouldn't accept me. They would think I'm different or something, or they would really abolish, or they won't accept my ideas or opinions. And also, I would also talk about the communication skills. I feel as humans, we have different ways we talk about things, different way we express our opinions. So when we don't know the norms, the values of a particular society, when they're sharing their ideas, it might come across as rude, as disrespectful, or something, or even aggressive. So I feel like one of the challenges is there are a lot of opinions and there are a lot of values we need to learn. Also, we need to talk about the stereotypes. Every society has a particular preconceived notion. Yeah, we think, oh, this is associated with that society or that country or that continent. So when you meet someone, I feel like you actually just focus on that. So it's hard for you to actually develop genuine relationships and everything with that person or that particular group of people. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Let's move on to Faisal. Hello, Faisal. What about challenges of diversity?
Well, for me, I believe that knowing or language is not the most important part to understand someone, because, for example, kids, they don't speak and they have so much fun. They know what they want to do together. But also, unfortunately, I had both the hostility part and in Poland, I mean. For me, I was somehow new. My skin didn't look the same. My hair didn't look the same. My language, the things that I do, my religion, it wasn't the same. So I had some problems with that. But the most important thing would be to not just acknowledge, but understand and know what they're doing and how they're doing it will remove all those bad thoughts or hostile or bad ideas, or Islam is this or Christianity is that. Well, do you know why they're doing this? What the way that they act, their culture? If you understand those things, it would make life really good and simple, because you shouldn't be treating other people how about their religion, their culture, their nationalities, their skin color, but you should treat them as you want to be treated. Respect, love, and enjoy the good things in life. So there is the good and there's the bad. Hopefully we focus more on the good things.
Thank you very much. Exactly. I think your words resound nicely with what Princess said about stereotypes. If you approach someone with a label in your mind, then of course it makes things much more difficult. Okay, thank you. Now over to Fanny.
Okay, so I'm also coming back to the same theme as Princess and Faisal, because today in our modern society, we travel a lot. We travel within our countries, we travel abroad. We are much more exposed to diversity and we see it. But seeing it and experiencing it, it's not the same thing. We are seeing it around us, but are we prepared to take it in? Are we prepared to actually dive into something new and see what it means? Or are we just going to look at it with, blindfolded or with our prejudice in mind, without actually going up or talking to the person and saying, hello, introduce yourself, and maybe you can make some new friends and get some new perspectives. So I think there are a lot of challenges, because even though there are diversity all around us, it's a question about including it to our everyday life, and being willing and open to these new experiences. And I think that that's something that we need to work on, both personally and as a community as a whole.
Thank you very much. That's very important. I'm pretty sure we'll come back to this meaningful content in a moment. Now let's move on to Marlon.
Well, I'm probably going to reiterate a few points again, but I think there's always a challenge when it comes to diversity, especially if at a young age, I think if that concept isn't kind of instilled in you and you're not immediately exposed to different ways of thinking, it can be kind of challenging later on in life to challenge predispositions and core beliefs and values. Especially when it comes to customs. So, one example that was given before is, when you ask people to come over, say, I would host a party and I tell people to come over at 5 o'clock, the natural predisposition for, I guess, my family from India would be to arrive an hour late, because that's kind of like a normal thing, because, that's how it works. But friends from Canada or like native Canadians wouldn't, 5 o'clock is 5 o'clock. You come at the time you're told. So just simple misunderstandings like that can kind of just cause conflict unnecessarily. But if those hostilities or those like concepts aren't mitigated initially or appropriately, I think that can lead to frustration from both parties. And I know Faisal said that language isn't necessarily shouldn't be a barrier, but it tends to be a barrier sometimes, especially when you can't communicate your feelings appropriately. So the biggest issue, I think, is how much time or being open-minded at least to others can be very difficult, especially when we try to, I guess, limit ourselves with how exposed we want to be with both our feelings and with our experiences. So it takes both. It can be a scary, I guess, thing to do, but being open is, I think, one of the biggest challenges to diversity. So sharing from your own perspective, as well as being receptive to other people's perspective, is a big challenge.
Thank you very much, Marlon. Now we move on to Shraddha.
Well, initially, I agree with everybody who has spoken before me. And secondly, when we talk about diversity, the concept in itself is really nice. It promotes individualism, from what I understand it. But what complicates it? It's just us humans who are complicating this idea. There are societies, like how Princess mentioned, the societal norms. The normal of the society is set by the humans. What is normal in a particular society? It's been happening for a very long time, and it's set rules that you have to follow. You cannot say if it's right or wrong. For the people who have been living under such societal norms, they have this sense of belongingness. Because as humans, we want to be belong, have that respect, or, just be associated with something, right? So having these societal norms basically promotes this sense of belongingness, but also if somebody from the outside, from a hypothetically, like from a different society is going to a different society, and they have different ideas, they have different opinions. That's when the problem comes in, because they have to behave in a certain way to fit in. But then we can also look at in a way that why not have some open mind for somebody who wants to be integrated in a different society. You can be open to having such discussions, like, for example, Fanny, how they said, just have an open conversation. It's not that difficult. But then again, in today's world, it is a problem. This whole integration of societies, we've been following a set of rules and regulations for a long time, and to break off from them, I think this is like one of our biggest challenges. So yeah, I think for me personally, I think the societal norms which have been set from a very long time, it's 2023, I think it's a little bit time to change. So yeah.
Thank you very much, Shraddha. I had a thought about humility, a certain attitude that helps in what Mr. Andrzej Żukowski said, stepping back from your attitude of knowing better, from the attitude of superiority over others. So this humility might help listen before speaking, or waiting or expecting someone to show and say and get involved without excluding them just because they are different. So that's one thing. And another thing that came to my mind is that unfortunately, big numbers of people are very much affected by a prepared, manipulated message that goes from the mass media. And this is done sometimes for a purpose, sometimes for a very bad purpose. So the conscience of big communities is actually shaped by false message, by at least incomplete message, building and feeding stereotypes. Mr. Żukowski, please.
Well, I will speak from my own experience and well as the way I was brought up, and also what I experienced during my travels. And I will refer to the field where diversity has the very high potential of being a generator of very hostile and dangerous conflicts. As we know, most of the wars in the history were the religious ones, and they were the most brutal and most bloody. I was brought up as an ardent Catholic, and the Catholic religion was a part of me, of my identity, and we were taught that Catholics are the best Christians, and not mentioning other religions. And that was the foundation on which I had to build my life. In Poland, as you may know, there is this notion of Pole equals Catholic. And it became even more obvious when in 1978, the first Polish Pope, John Paul II, has been elected. A pilgrimage to go to Rome and to see the Pope was the closest you could get to see God and meet God in this life. And for many people, it still is. And now, to tell me at that time that God can be found in other religion was pure nonsense. I would never accept that. And during my travels, I meet many people from all religions that still think this way. And why is it so? Because the religions answer the three most important questions in our life. Where do I come from? Why am I here? And where will I go after I die? And to play games with these questions is for many people a risk that they don't want to take. So they are ready to kill, to defend, because that's their strongest identity and that's their security of what will happen to them, to us, when we die. And with this question, nobody wants really to play games. So, and I believe that all other prejudices and hostilities toward what I call the other, with capital O, come from this first existential fear of going to hell. So, and that is a root cause for all other prejudices, being gender or sex or race or skin color based. And reducing this fear is not easy. It took me 30 years from my visit to see the Pope and to be embraced in February this year by the Dalai Lama, of 30 days of spiritual journeying where I know that I don't have this fear anymore. And it started to go away when I saw her or him as a co-pilgrim, as a traveler on the same road to the same place that we human beings travel together.
Thank you very much. The thought I have is that on an individual level, when a person meets a person, it's so much easier to look in the eye and see a human. And when you're one of a crowd, standing opposite another crowd of people shouting different slogans, holding different flags, getting wild, it's so much difficult.
That's exactly the point.
And your experience, which you have been describing, is a very personal one, a very intimate in moments of closeness to the sacred. Thank you very much. We go now to round 5, which is diversity implies equality. We could ask the question, why is equality appearing so late in our debate? The idea was to first build the landscape, to present diversity from several angles, and you have quite vast perspective of diversity. But diversity without equality does not sound very appealing. Diversity is a fact. It's something we are given. It's something we are challenged with. Whereas equality does not seem to be a gift from our genetic material. It's not something we are given. We have to work hard for it. It's easy to act hostile. It's easy to be non-receptive, non-understanding, impatient. It takes an effort to be otherwise. So I would like to ask you to share your views on why is equality essential and which aspects of equality, if there are any special, would you like to emphasize? And the second part of that question is, what do you think it takes at a personal and community level to get closer to equality in diversity? What would be the conditions to make it real? As usual, we start with Alejandra.
A key factor for equality is to have a communication that is based on respect. So being able to, for example, share with the university our challenges and the student be able to communicate this efficiently with the student and the university being able to learn from us on what's happening. Right? So being so in a way, learning and teaching each other. So this way we could embrace our differences, we could treat each other with respect and kindness, and we could find solutions to those challenges. On a personal level, I believe it's about showing empathy, celebrating each other's differences and qualities, and also just understanding that we all bring something to the table and that it's a benefit for all of us, right? And I think on a community level, we want to create more inclusive spaces where everybody's voice can be valued and be heard. For example, we have the Breaking the Stereotypes series in our university's newspaper, where we give the opportunity for students to share about their countries and the stereotypes about their countries. Right? We also have the Wellness and Student Life Initiative as part of AMSA, where we have a lot of discussions about all these topics. And this is how we could contribute to building that sense of diversity and equality in our university.
Thank you very much, Alejandra. And now we move on to Princess again.
Equality and diversity, I would say it shouldn't really be about treating everyone the same, because we're all different. It's more like realizing how different we are, but trying to embrace that difference. You know, we have different convictions, different values. So when you meet a person, you should just trying to learn about each other's values. Doesn't mean you're completely dismissing whatever you stand by, whatever convictions that you might have and everything. So I feel like as humans, we should respect each other's, we should just respect each other's values and everything. Then the second part of the question talks about on a personal level. On a personal level, I'll just say we should have an open mind. Fanny talked about being inclusive. Yeah, I would say having an inclusive mindset really helps you accommodate other people, tolerate people, and listen to other people and their views. It also makes you empathetic because you're talking to this person, you're like, oh, if I was in their shoes, how would this be like? That whole thing. So it makes you understand people better. It broadens your worldview on different things, challenges those stereotypes you might have had, and also even recognize the shared values which everyone could have. I think here for me in Poland, I'm still discovering a lot of things, but I feel like the shared value I have right now, it's in religion. I'm also a Catholic, so I also go to church too. I found also a Catholic church here, and you attend mass, and you realize that, oh, we're all different, but yeah, we also believe in this particular religion. So yeah, that's everything.
Thank you very much, Princess. Let's move on now to Faisal. Hello, Faisal. So once again, diversity implies equality.
I was waiting for you.
Diversity implies equality. Which aspects would you like to emphasize, and what does it take at personal and community level to make it real?
I would like to start by saying thank you, Princess, because I believe that people are not the same. And I would say the quality of being fair and impartial. This is the definition of equity. We are not all the same. Some people need more, some people need less, some people need something different than you or than you. So equity and diversity, this is how we can survive, and this is how we can live in a good life. Because being equal, meaning you will give exactly the same to this person, exactly the same to that person. But sometimes they don't need that. So being fair and impartial and know what exactly they need or what exactly you need is the way of us being together and living together in harmony and living the proper way of life. He needs a little bit more than you. He needs a little bit less than you. We're not all the same. But that does not mean that, oh, you are special and you should be treated in a way that no one else will be treated, because this is the absolute opposite. So that's my input on this.
Thank you very much, Faisal. Very important words. Thank you. We go on to Fanny now.
I think this is a very complex question on the statement that you made, that diversity should imply equality. I mean, we all struggle, or I think that we can say that there is a bigger struggle with equality than with diversity. I mean, all of us that sit here today, we are by definition a diverse group. We all come from different backgrounds, so we are diverse. And I would also say that we have equality here, but that's not always the case. You can put together a diverse group without having the equality. And as Faisal said, it's about having a fairness and respect for each other. That would then create the equality, and that's a struggle. But without having this equality in the diverse group, it's all just a facade. It's not really diversity, it's not acceptance, and I think that's a struggle for the society as a whole. On a personal level, you can think of acceptance, you can see that or tell yourself that, but there is a diversity, it's diversity all around us. But it's the challenge of the community as a whole to create an environment where tolerance, fairness, and acceptance for one another can actually grow, where the selfishness of each human being will not be the highest priority, but where you actually can see beyond yourself. And I think that's the biggest challenge here.
Thank you very much for this very important input. You mentioned, it was mentioned earlier, but you stressed the word or the value of respect. And I think we should do all possible to convince everyone who attends our debate and will be listening to the debate recorded and uploaded to YouTube that it's not just a meeting of some people who wanted to talk about something and present a nice picture of ideal world where diversity meets equality in a perfect way, but that equality is not meant to be a label, not a facade, that it really needs to be founded on respect and not on superiority, on selfishness, and the, to quote Mr. Ziółkowski, knowing better attitude. Thank you very much for this. We go over to Marlon now.
All the participants so far. And, the biggest aspect I think Faisal brought up was, equality versus equity versus justice, and which is a proper kind of tool set to view diversity. And it's kind of a long, I guess, a discussion, but I kind of want to highlight an aspect of my own experience, I think, that might kind of highlight this. So when I was living in Dubai, I was born in Dubai, but part of being born in the country, in United Arab Emirates, you don't, I think what's the word, naturalize. So in other words, you aren't an Emirati, you get the citizenship of your parents, which is one type of methodology. And when we would travel to India, I was always, even though I was quite young, I acted a little bit differently. I wasn't quite Indian because I was a little bit foreign, so I was seen as like an other to some extent. So despite my skin color, and visually, I was still slightly discriminated based on like how I acted in India and in Goa specifically. But it wasn't until I got to Canada and once I kind of just felt more accepted for just being diverse, I think would be the best way of saying it. That, and this is on retrospect and reflection. It wasn't when I was like 8 years old I realized this was happening to me. But from reflection on past events, I realized that I didn't truly feel that equality, I guess, until I kind of experienced it living in Toronto, and then seeing different communities kind of just, even though they're, you have like little China, like little Ethiopia, little Greece. If you go into these centers or these areas, you see vibrant culture, and it's not kind of homogenized just yet, but they're living like beside each other. And there's no kind of friction between these aspects. So just being exposed to these cultures and just normalizing this, I think does lead to this just equality. And by normalizing others, beliefs and cultures, I think that helps with then making life easier to create this equality, I think, and inherently create diversity.
Thank you very much, Marlon. So now we go to round 6, and this is a relatively short round.
Well, we haven't finished the round.
Oh, sorry. Second mistake today. Very sorry. We go on to Mr. Ziłkowski.
No, not yet.
Shraddha. Okay, Shraddha, I'm sorry.
No worries, no worries. It's 5 almost. It's past 5. Okay. Well, I'm very happy that my colleagues have such a view on equality, especially when we talk about equality. It's much of a bigger problem than diversity, because to achieve equality, we have to have some extra effort compared to when we want to achieve diversity. And I would also like to reiterate what Faisal said about equity in diversity. Because, again, some people need a bit more than the others, and that is completely true, because we're all not the same. And having such notion is, I think, really important. So we're not completely hopeless. And when we talk about what we can do as a community, I would say having awareness about each other's cultural, religious, individual differences, having an open mind to accept those differences. Yes, you can know them. That is like, there are differences, you have acknowledged them, but are you accepting them? So having this sort of acceptance, and also having an action that you're doing something in order to make sure that, okay, this is a little bit of an effort that I can say, that not to say certain things which would upset the other person, because we all know that, they make, when you know that, I'm gonna regather my thoughts, sorry. For example, it's like when you know that certain things are triggering for some people, right? You have this awareness, but you need to make sure that you don't say those things, or you don't do certain acts, so that you're not making those things more complicated, having, in a sense, more simpler way, being more sensitive. So having awareness, having an open mind, and being sensitive towards others, I think, would basically, I wouldn't say it will solve all of our problems, but I feel like it's a step towards achieving this whole ideology of having equity or equality in diversity.
Thank you very much, Shraddha. Now on to Mr. Ziłkowski.
Well, being the last in the round is always kind of boring because you have to repeat the things and all the truths that have been said before. So maybe just a thought or two. So we have to be careful that when we talk about equality, we do not settle down on simple cliches and just advertising slogans, because diversity is a value, and it is a source of enrichment. And being different is something that I always valued in my life. Being equal or the same is kind of being dead. Being different is cool. So, but at the same time, we have to think and be very careful that the differences will not be the source of creating divisions. And that's where unfortunately, politics comes in, and the politicians love to exploit the differences for their own gains and games. And we as citizens are being dragged into this game, and we create walls. You remember Pink Floyd, The Wall? And Americans just are building a wall to Mexico. The Israelis have fenced them off from the Palestinians. Polish government has just erected a wall on the frontier with Belarus. And we kind of get used to it and turn a blind eye on the fact that on all these walls, people die. So, and unfortunately, my generation has made a great contribution to this. And your generation will have to take enormous effort to dismantle these walls. But walls made of bricks will eventually fall, as the Berlin Wall did. But more difficult to dismantle are the walls that we have in our heads and cultures. And we are not immune to it. Each of us has to be really careful and always on alert to dismantle continuously these walls that are being created in our heads. And I think that the university campus as such, and this debate, and I can see that the network that you are building is a wonderful contribution, and I congratulate you on taking up this subject and making a great effort in dismantling these walls in the heads of all of us.
Thank you very much. Before we move on to round 6, I'd like to say that the very name of university associates with universal, global, for everyone. But it's not only about education. It's also about attitudes. It's also about learning how to live together, how to respect others, how not to get closed in your own ethnicity, language, religion box, believing that this is the best place on earth. Hopefully, we will be able to continue and develop not only words but much more importantly, actions, which will make the values we talk about really an integral part of daily life at the university and hopefully also beyond. I had a thought about rephrasing the title of round 6 as I was listening to you all. And the idea was, how about making a wish list? How about expressing your hopes or needs for a change to make equality, equity more real, both on the local ground of the university and elsewhere. Would that be okay? Great.
Could you again repeat your question?
Equality and diversity, instead of personal summary, let's make a wish list.
Okay.
Let's go to Alejandra first.
The message is that embracing and celebrating diversity and equality is so important, especially as medical students, because we're all in this journey together and we all bring a unique perspective to the table. So valuing each other and respecting each individual's contribution, it really creates a richer and more inclusive learning environment for all of us, where everyone can feel respected and valued, feels the sense of security. If we can stand together, we can support one another, and we can make a positive impact in the university by promoting equality and diversity in our university.
Great, thanks to Alejandra. And let's move on to Princess.
Equality and diversity is an ongoing change or an ongoing process. It doesn't just happen in one night, obviously. So I would say one of the wishes is for everyone to be more self-aware, like work on your individuality. And also, it's caring, like just tolerating people, wanting to actually acknowledge them and their humanity, so to be a better and a safe community for everyone else. Yes.
Thank you very much. As usual, we move over to Faisal now. Hello, Faisal. Yep, the question is equality and diversity, your wish list for things to happen, your hopes for the future, for the university or elsewhere.
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, that's deep. But I think I would say, or I hope and wish that people. Okay, so in my culture and in my religion, we say that treat people how you want to be treated. You don't need to agree with what they think about them, but treat them with respect. Treat them with mercy, be merciful. Like, even if you are working with someone, don't give them more than what they can handle. So I wish that, and I hope that in the future, people will be respectful towards each other, treating other the way that they want to be treated, and they have mercy to themselves and to each other. Because without those things, I don't think life will go on in a good way.
Thank you very much, Faisal. That was deep. Thank you. Let's move on to Fanny now.
Okay, so a wish list both for university and for the community as a whole, I think would be to be more honest, to have the courage to be more upfront, especially when it comes to something new, something that you don't understand, when you want to embrace a new culture or there's diversity around you. Approach it, ask the question like, why is it like this? I don't understand this. You behaved in this way. Why? Be curious, because without curiosity and honesty, when we have diversity, it will just be hypocrisy and a facade that we say that it's diverse, but we haven't embraced it. So that's what I would put on my wish list for people to be honest about it. Thank
you very much. Very important thing. we move on to Marlon now.
New individuals, everyone has had their own experiences in life. No matter if you're from the same country, from different religions, everyone has their own life story, and just being curious to hear what other people have to say about their own experiences can just be enlightening in itself. And just openly practicing empathy, I think, is also very important. It's hard to empathize with people, and sometimes it's a spectrum. You know, we're not in our best 100% of the time, and so, you know, it's always important to understand that people might not be in portraying the best selves at every moment, and I think you just need to give people time to both open up and just to get a better understanding of other people and for other cultures. And I just want to make sure that others try to foster inclusiveness in their environment. And it was one of the aspects that I tried to aim for when I was a leader in one of the scientific, in pediatric oncology scientific circle. So, you know, trying to include as many cultures as possible, trying to expose people to other cultures. And it was really, I guess, just a fun experience. And I think part of that curiosity just allowed us to make a lot of friends, and friendships that kind of lasted. So I hope everyone stays curious. Let's just put it that way.
Wonderful. Thank you, Marlon. I had this idea of combining what you mentioned, listening to others, people's experiences, and honesty mentioned by Fanny. And then I put it on the ground of the university. And if we meet and talk honestly about the problems we have, then it's going to be perfect for the university, not only for the students. This is just a side remark, but hopefully recorded. We move on now to Shraddha. Sorry.
You're forgetting me every time.
Keep being forgotten.
You will never forget me.
As a wish list, I think the topmost thing that I would want to wish for would be to live and to let people live. That's a saying, or if I'm saying it wrong. Live and
let live.
Yeah, just let people be. How hard is that? But apparently it is. And in addition to this, of course, like how the other panelists have mentioned, awareness and education, early sensitization towards culture and diversity and how people are around, and it's okay for people to look different, be different. Just the whole acceptance part needs to be internalized as we're growing up. So this is one thing. And I think within our university itself, there are so many, it's been 5 years since I've been in Poland and associated with the university. It wasn't as much earlier, but I think in the recent times there have been many steps taken to ensure that people feel comfortable and open to talk about difficult things. For example, like I mentioned about those, the diversity days. I agree, it's like a part of the campaign. It's a must-do thing, but I'm speaking from a student's perspective that it's really nice to have a place to go to and, you can all collect under one roof and just be yourself. You can just express your cultural ideas to others and share your experiences. So having safe spaces, especially in a university, it's really important to have safe spaces where you can just sit down and have an honest conversations, like Fanny said. So yeah, this is my wish list.
Thank you very much. And now, with no doubt, we move on to Mr. Ziółkowski.
Well, I have no wishes, no wish list, but I have wishes for you. So as it happened, my daughter is a doctor, and I still remember her student and times. And when she started on her first job, how difficult it was and what challenges you are going to face. So I wish you luck. I also wish you that you meet people that will help you in your first steps, because this job is not a job, is a calling, what we say. So it requires dedication, it requires sacrifice, and it requires also love and compassion to others. So I wish you that these qualities will be always with you in all your professional life.
Thank you very much. This was wonderful. I'd like to come back to university. I mentioned that already, but I didn't add the adjective medical. And now I'd like to do that, because medical university seems to be the ideal place to grow attitudes of respect, compassion, cooperation, trust. Because this is what every doctor and every healthcare professional will need to exercise daily with the patients, but also with other colleagues. So in a few days, Fanny and a big number of colleagues will be granted the diploma during the graduation ceremony. They are colleagues, younger, but colleagues. There is nothing that justifies deficits of equal treatment or respect between us. And the medical university should definitely be the perfect place to grow them. That's my idea. I would also like to mention that in this diversity and filled or diverse environment that we have, because we embarked on this route in 2002 and started recruiting students from different countries, the university has become very different, and I would say much better than before. When I first got to know about resource team that opens mock exams to everyone, including Polish students, when we had Phi Delta Epsilon, when we had other organizations opening to other students, organizing things for everyone and not just for a small group of friends, I thought this is something new that came to us with our international students. It's their understanding of being part of the academic community here, not keeping things for themselves, but sharing, even though it takes a lot of time, even though the time has to be found between one and another exam, which increases the price, which increases the effort. And I think it's a very practical example of exercising and celebrating diversity, trying to do something for others, regardless who they are, what language they speak, whether they belong to Polish division or English division or whatever study program. I hope this meeting today, which is not attended by Polish students, which everyone could notice, is the first of a series of meetings to which Polish students will also be invited to talk about diversity, equality, respect, equal treatment in a group of representatives of all our students, and possibly to start solving problems in cooperation with the university management and faculty staff.
Well, I have one wish. One point on my wish list, listening to you and referring to the university as our doctors. I think my wish would be that this university and other medical universities see not only, or teach not only that human being is a body, but that human being is a body, mind, and spirit. So what is called the holistic medicine, that you see that you teach your students and to future doctors that the people that they will see people and not just bodies. I'm sure you do, but that is something that we can learn from the East, that holistic medicine. And it would be of great advantage to you guys if you could spend some time in the East with the Chinese doctor, Tibetan doctor, Ayurvedic doctor. That would, maybe a course like this would be a great thing to introduce to your programs here. You know that the Ayurvedic doctors study 7 years before being qualified as a doctor. And there's a great science and wisdom in this medicine. And I think the Western medicine has too much and too long neglected this aspect of the humans. So, body, mind, and spirit, please.
Thank you very much. We will definitely remember that, and it will be very easy to remember since our students coming from India are the third largest group of students in our almost 1,000 population of international students. We are coming to the end of our discussion meeting, and I would like to thank you all for accepting the invitation, for taking your time, especially that the timing is 2 weeks before the beginning of the exam session, and some tests have already been going on for some time, so it's closing time for some of you. I would also like to thank our graduates, Faisal and Marlon, great ambassadors of our university. Also, our students are ambassadors of our university, and we are very pleased about all your successes. We hope that there will be many of them, and we wish that for you. And I would also like to thank all my colleagues who helped to prepare this debate, from our department, Bureau of Internationalization, and from the section of promotion and the section of the communication unit, and everyone involved, and our colleagues dealing with all those technical intricacies behind the wall. So I'm very thankful to all of you, and we cannot miss or waste the opportunity to make the university even better on the ground of the diversity that we have, adding more and more respect and equality. Thank you very much.